Shalom. Our Torah portion this week is Tol'dot. And right at the beginning of the portion, we encounter two events that disturb us from a moral and ethical perspective. Let's take a look at the first one, found in chapter 25, verses 29 through 34 in the book of Genesis.
ויעזד יעקב נזיד, ויבוא עשיו מן השדה, והוא עייף. One day, when Jacob was cooking a stew, Esau came in from the hunting field. He was famished, and he said to Jacob, "I'm famished. Let me gulp down some of that red stuff." That is why he was named Edom. Jacob said, "Sell me your birthright here and now." And Esau said, "Here I am going to die. What good is the birthright to me?" But Jacob said, "Confirm it to me by oath here and now." So he swore it to him and sold his birthright to Jacob. Jacob then gave Esau bread and lentil stew. He ate, drank, got up, and left. Thus did Esau disdain his birthright.
Now we see here an instance in which a good, positive end was accomplished by a rather questionable means. It would have been an absolute disaster had Esau become the leader of the Jewish people. Esau was a very weak-willed man, a very impulsive, violent individual, certainly not a suitable person to assume the leadership of our people. And yet, we see Jacob doing something that's questionable, taking advantage of his brother, setting up a situation in which he knew his brother would fail. And later on, we have an even more vivid description of a good, positive end being accomplished with a questionable means. Later on, we see that Jacob and his mother Rebekah collude to actually steal a special blessing that Isaac had reserved for Esau. They actually lied, and they really stole from Esau. And what is perhaps even more disturbing is the Torah doesn't seem to have a moral judgment about this. So we're left with the question, is it proper to pursue a positive and good and righteous end through a questionable means? Well, we see that God often chooses very flawed human beings, imperfect individuals, to accomplish or manifest the divine will in the world. Our greatest biblical heroes were very flawed individuals, not just Jacob, but let's look at Moses. Moses, we are told, had a very hot temper. He was a man whose anger often got the best of him. And later on in the Bible, we see David, God's most beloved poet and singer, the person whose Psalms we read almost every day, had a problem with his passions. Often his lust got the better of him. Now, in each one of these cases, we see that there is a price to pay for the way that they accomplished their good ends. We see that Jacob is deceived and he's cheated, he's stolen from by his uncle Laban. We see that Moses is not allowed to enter the promised land because of his hot temper. We see that David has a number of tragedies in his lifetime following his indiscretions with Bathsheba. They're not let off the hook for the way that they accomplished their positive goals. But this is what I take away from this Torah portion. God has imperfect material to work with, namely us human beings, and we are flawed, But every human being is capable of some goodness. Sometimes we go about it the wrong way. Sometimes we even do the right thing for the wrong reason. But God holds out the possibility of even the most flawed, imperfect man or woman doing some righteous act. Maybe not all of the time, but at specific junctures during their lifetimes. Let's take a look at what Ben Azai said in the Talmud.
Despise not any man, and discard not anything. For there is not a man who has not his hour, and there exists not a thing which has not its place.
Here's a question that perhaps we should ask ourselves every day. How might I be a potential servant of God during this day? How might God use me in my imperfect, flawed state? How might God use me for some good purpose today? Well, I hope that you will read this week's Torah portion and come to your own conclusion. Shabbat Shalom.